everyone, and welcome to the ASMR review show. For this video, I'm going to be recommending you a whole bunch of horror movies, or a bunch of movies that are within the realms of spookiness, thrillers, there's going to be a wide variety. It's not just all slashers, not just all ghost movies, it's a whole bunch of stuff that falls under the creepy category, because it's October, and so therefore it is spooky season. Best time of the year. The time where it's socially acceptable to wear all of my weird, creepy outfits, or, dress however I want. And the Halloween store is open, so I can actually shop for my fashion, and I gotta wear shirts like this, with Cthulhu, and it says, trust in God, fun little thing. And of course, Halloween season means we get delicious pumpkin-flavored beers, like this pumpkin stout, Dark O' the Moon from Elysian Brewing, great brewery based in Seattle. So yeah, great time of the year, and I've been watching lots of horror movies, so I've got a lot that I'm going to recommend to you guys, and maybe you guys could recommend me some movies to watch too, because there's always great new horror movies coming out, and I haven't seen every one of them that's new. I haven't seen every one of them that's old, so if there's something I didn't talk about, I might have already reviewed it, because I've done a whole bunch of movie reviews on the channel in the past, or maybe I still need to see it. So, drop a comment. Who knows? So, I've got a list of movies, and some of these are new, and some of them are old, and I don't know if these are all available on common streaming platforms, so unfortunately you may have to do your own research there, but maybe something will make its way into having a spooky Halloween movie night for you and whoever else you want to do that with. But first off, there's a couple new horror movies or thrillers that have come out that I haven't seen yet, so we're just gonna rattle those off here. The Black Phone, and Barbarian, and Smile, and Halloween Ends. All of these ones, they weren't on my radar to watch, but some people have said they're actually decent, some people have said they're not, particularly Halloween Ends. Apparently that one's not very good, but some of those other ones, apparently they might be actually half decent, so who knows. I might need to check those ones out. Maybe if you've seen them, let me know what you thought. But anyway, on to some of the movies here. First off, there was the new Hellraiser that came out direct to Hulu streaming, Hellraiser 2022, I guess we'll call it. So that one I watched, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's no masterpiece like the original Hellraiser is, but seeing as Hellraiser, I know, has had a string of really, really bad, cringy sequels, some of which were not even made as Hellraiser films, and they just randomly inserted Pinhead into the movie to make it a Hellraiser film. The fact that this one's actually pretty decent means it already gets a bump in quality, I really liked it. New Pinhead character played by Jamie Clayton, I think. She's great. The new look of the Cenobites is pretty cool, because I think that's originally how they were described in the book or the novella. I'm not too much into the Hellraiser lore. I've seen the first one a bunch, and I love it. That's about it. I actually haven't seen many of the sequels. I've heard the first couple are alright, and then they go pretty downhill from there. But this new one, actually pretty good, and quite violent still, and quite bloody and gruesome, and some kind of crazy, insane moments, if you've seen the film, you know what I mean. So yeah, I really dug it. Maybe if they do more, hopefully it continues in that style, because I like the way they did it. My only complaint about the new one is it was not nearly as erotic enough as the first one, right? If you know what I mean. But yeah, the original's great. new one's still pretty good. I'd say they're worth checking out. And while we're on the topic of direct-to-Hulu Plus movies, we could talk about Prey, which is a new Predator movie. So, it's another case where the movie is actually pretty good, surprisingly, and it's elevated by the fact that the prior movie, The Predator 2018, was very not good. It's a really cool movie taking place in the almost pre-colonial or sort of colonial era Americas, and I forget the group that I think it's Comanche is the indigenous group that the main character is part of. But she's great. It's basically like, hey, did you want to watch Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn fight against the Predator? Well, that's what the movie is. And I know it was one that a lot of people were critiquing because they were like, oh, how is this tiny little scrawny girl gonna fight toe-to-toe with a Predator? And the movie does a really good job of showing how this character learns and studies the Predator and learns how to fight it. So it's a really great build-up to a great, satisfying final battle. It's a very entertaining movie. I just wish, one, that it had been a theatrical movie, so the budget could have been higher. Maybe a bit of a slower movie, because it's a pretty short one. It's like 90, 100 minutes. And I also wish I had watched the Comanche language version, because I don't know how you select that, like on Disney Plus, but I just thought you had to watch it in English. But no, apparently they filmed like a whole version where it was spoken in the native language, and I think that would have been much more cool for the immersion. So maybe I need to see if I can find out how to watch the movie in that version. I think I would like that a lot more. You know, because people complain, oh, I don't want to read subtitles in a movie. Subtitles are literally the worst. And then they go ahead and make a movie where the characters wouldn't necessarily be speaking English, but they do anyways, so you don't have to read subtitles. And people complain, hey, that's not accurate. They shouldn't be speaking that language. Well, it's because you guys always complain about you have to read subtitles. That's why they did it. A side note though, is it just me, or does it seem like every movie nowadays has to put in one random scene where you need subtitles to understand an important pivotal plot point, so that if you're trying to, let's say, borrow the movie from a, other website and it doesn't have the subtitles, you're gonna miss out. Maybe it's just me. Couple other new horror movies we have, X and Pearl. It's a duo of films directed by Ty West, or T. West. And they're newer ones. And the first one, X, is kind of like an homage to 70s slasher grindhouse type low-budget B-movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then Pearl was a secret prequel to the movie. And I won't go into too many details then, because describing Pearl necessitates spoiling the movie X, but let's just say they're both pretty interesting, unique movies that give you all those violent, bloody kills you want in a slasher horror movie, but they've also got pretty interesting characters to them. They're not just dumb characters you want to die. They're actually well written. Some people prefer Pearl to X. I think I prefer X, but the one big reason is because it's got a soundtrack by Chelsea Wolfe, who is one of my favorite musicians. And it's probably the best use of Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult in a movie, if you know what I mean. So those are both great newer movies, and I guess apparently there's like another third one coming out called Maxine, and I don't know when that one's coming out, but it would be crazy if they managed to make like an entire trilogy of horror movies all come out within 1 year. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Other newer horror movies we've got, it's the atmospheric which is Men. And that's directed by Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina and Annihilation. Oh, you know, just two of the best sci-fi movies of ever, basically. So it's one of those boring A24 slow burn movies, which doesn't make any sense, right? So I of course love it, but it's not going to be for everybody. I need to rewatch it because there's a lot of layers to that movie to unpack and to what it all means. But needless to say, it's a very interesting experience of a film. It definitely does have a lot of those typical, like, A24 horror movie tendencies, and I don't like to rag on that too much because, like, just because the studio is A24 doesn't mean the movie has to be that way. It's more so the movies are that way, and A24 is the main studio that's going to pick up those movies and publish it. And, it's not, the movie is not that way because A24 published it. A24 published the movie because it is that way. So, but if you're the type of person that hears A24 and thinks boring, pretentious, artsy-fartsy, slow movies that make no sense, Men is not the movie for you. Also, the alternative title for that movie should have just been Gaslighting the Movie. So, it's a great one. And then also the other one that came out this year, kind of a controversial one in terms of the mixed reception, is Nope. 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 I actually really liked this movie a lot. I know not everyone was totally sold on it, but I think it's because I watched it a second time. The second time, seeing all the details and knowing what it was all about made me enjoy it more. It's a new movie from Jordan Peele, who did Get Out and Us, both very great big breakthrough horror movies, and of course let's just recommend those ones as well while we're at it. Of course, Get Out and Us, fantastic movies. But you've probably seen those ones already. So I thought Nope was very good because it talks about the horror of trying to capture tragedy on film and the exploitative nature, the way people, they're not so much focused on like helping as they are focused on getting rich. So it was kind of pretty interesting and kind of funny that a lot of YouTubers who profit off of making fun of other people's misery didn't get that the movie was making fun of them, and it's got Akira references and Evangelion references, so of course I'm gonna like it for that. Very well made, well shot movie. Such a gorgeous cinematography from, of course, the new legendary cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema. I really dig this one a lot. I don't get why people are like, oh, Nope, oh, such a bad movie. Like, come on, it's great. And like, it's also got like comedy and thrills to it, and also some pretty legitimately scary stuff. Like, how shall I say it without spoiling it, but the Star Lasso experience scene, great example of, less is more. And the first sighting scene, shall we say, in the horse stables, right, where it's that one shot of the hallway in the distance, like one of the best shots in a horror movie, and then also undercut with such perfect comedy and a title drop. Again, if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. But yeah, I thought it was great. And then another one that's a new one, but maybe a little hard for you to find or not really interesting for you, is the stop-motion nightmare Mad God, which is the culmination of artistic work by legendary VFX artist Phil Tippett, who's a stop-motion animator, and he was working on this project for like 30 years, and it's finally out. Man, I was hyped for that one, and it didn't disappoint. I mean, it's kind of one where like it doesn't have a plot. It is just a big series of images and stuff, and Does it mean anything? What does it mean? What's it supposed to say? I don't know. But that's the beauty of it, you know. It's an art house film, and it's about appreciating the set design and the artistry, which is so nightmaric. It's like every Tool music video cranked up to 11 and rolled into one, and I love it. And again, not really a horror movie, but some of those bits, like that surgery scene, shall we say, I was like wondering how much longer is this going to go on for? You know, it's not for the faint of heart, so I really like that one a lot. And then also there was David Cronenberg finally back to doing horny body horror movies in Crimes of the Future. And this one is pretty good, but I think it didn't hit me as hard as some other horror movies this year, because that one has some great body horror moments, but also the story's kind of meh, and it's kind of one of those cases where like the ideas brought up by the film are more interesting than the stuff the film actually explores. And I'm not even sure I understand what those two random mechanics who are just also real thirsty were all about. I don't get what their deal was. They were random mechanics, but then they were like thirst trap people, but then they were assassins, and I don't know. Oh well, but it had some cool scientific concepts to it. Viggo Mortensen was great, even if all of his lines were very mumbly, you know. I thought it was an odd choice that he was squatting in every scene where he had to deliver exposition, but I guess that's because he had hurt his back recently, and so standing for a while was very difficult, so they're just like, whatever, he just squats in a corner, like he's Patches or something like that. Untethered, unbreakable, trusty Patches. And I guess it works because his body's so broken down, but yeah, that's not really a horror movie, but it's got body horror in it, and it's some pretty grotesque stuff. Like, I remember showing people that movie when it was coming out, and like the trailer, and it was just accepted knowledge. Yeah, I'd be watching that one by myself. Then the other genre I've kind of been into lately is the Italian giallo films. So of course we start with the big Italian horror movie that is not a giallo, has some elements of giallo, but such a real giallo, and that is of course Suspiria, which is it's a horror movie Italian by legendary filmmaker Dario Argento. And it's about this girl who goes to a dance academy in Berlin, and spooky shit happens. And I can't say anything else, but that's basically the plot. And it's very colorful and elaborate, such a well-shot, colorful scheme for a horror movie, you know, none of this dull, muted gray, none of that stuff. No, it's got bright pinks and magentas, and it's hitting you in the face with all these crazy things. It's awesome. So yeah, I'm hyped for that because the soundtrack for that film is by the Italian prog rock band Goblin, and they're doing a tour because it's the 45th anniversary of Suspiria. So they're going to tour and play the soundtrack live to the movie. So I'm going to go see them when they come by, so that's going to be great. And also, we got to recommend the 2018 Suspiria because, wow, it's a horror remake that's actually good. Crazy, am I right? But that's because the Suspiria remake is not really a remake. It's another go at the story, I guess, shall we say, a readaptation, reinterpretation of the text. Because I think the remake for Suspiria is best amplified by how the title shows up in the movie, right? And that is, the credits finish, and you see off to the side corner in a subway station, you see Suspiria written there, and it's not in your face, and it's off to the side, and it's there, and that's it, right? And that's the best metaphor for this. Suspiria is the movie, but it's a whole other different direction. I remember seeing the trailer and being unimpressed. Like, why would I want to watch Suspiria without the crazy colors, right? Why would I want it with the drab, muted color? But, like, that's part of the aesthetic that makes it so great. It's this drab grayness to it because it's all about that it really is set in Berlin in the 70s with the whole Berlin Wall and the divide between worlds. And all of this is part of the political, socio-economic themes in the movie. And they've taken elements from the other spiritual successors to Suspiria, that is, Inferno and Mother of Tears. And they've put that in here. So yeah, they're both great. And also, man, Dakota Johnson, kills it in the movie. And of course, Tilda fucking Swinton. We love Tilda Swinton. She is the GOAT. No cap. And then, yeah, so because I'm watching those, I'm trying to go through some other Dario Argento films and get accustomed to the Italian horror movie giallo genre. Because the real giallos, that is the ones where they're murder mysteries, where it's usually foreigners that come into Italy and end up getting involved in a murder mystery case, and there's a killer who we never see, but he's got black leather gloves, and usually kills people with the wire or with lots of stabbing, and they're very stylized and violent. So, two big ones that I watched are Deep Red and Tenebrae. Both great horror movies directed by Dario Argento. Very spacey and trippy, with great soundtracks from Goblin. The thing about giallo movies is, I think there was a quote from Guillermo del Toro. That is, they don't make logical sense, but they make lyrical sense. You know, these movies and Suspiria are great at capturing the feeling of being in a nightmare where, yeah, it might not follow logic, it might not make sense, and the architecture is weird, and the images are nonsensical, but it somehow all flows together to create a sort of enamorating, invigorating experience. And that's what I like about those movies. And the Goblin soundtrack is top-notch. Though I feel like the Deep Red soundtrack, it was definitely Goblin trying to do the Tubular Bells Exorcist soundtrack. That main theme has got the exact same 15/8 time signature that Tubular Bells opens with. And there's even that bit they play in the middle where it's like that Piper bit that builds at the end of Tubular Bells Part 1, you know, they got a similar theme there in that movie. So yeah, they're both great ones, good places to start watching giallo movies. There's a couple others I still need to watch that fall into that category, like Cat O' Nine Tails, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, and then a couple other ones he did, like, what is it, Phantasm, or Opera, or Trauma, Inferno. Still need to see all those ones. I'm sure they're all really great ones. And at the time of filming this, Guillermo del Toro's Netflix show, Cabinet of Curiosities, has not come out yet, but I'm very hyped for that. Like, seeing the trailer, I was just audibly going, yes, yes, yes. Because I love Guillermo del Toro stuff. He's great. He's got a stop-motion Pinocchio movie coming out. Okay, sure, I dig it. It'll be better than the Disney live-action one, that's for sure. But he's doing a horror anthology series, and stuff's based off of H.P. Lovecraft stories, which is great. And then I looked at the director list, and like, one of the episodes is directed by Panos Cosmatos, who did Beyond the Black Rainbow and Mandy, and another's directed by Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook and The Nightingale. And let's just recommend all those movies while we're at it. Damn, boy, that's amazing. And one of them is also directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who directed Twilight. Okay. okay, sure. You know, the first Twilight movie's not a masterpiece, but I think it's got the best look and direction style out of all the other ones, because that was the one where it felt like some kind of quirky indie drama sort of thing, you know, and then the other ones, they tried to make it like, well, like the David Yates Harry Potter movies, which I don't really like that much. And I've been rewatching the Harry Potter movies a bit because Robbie Coltrane's passing, R.I.P. And it's been a while since I've seen them, you know, and I still enjoy the movies a lot. Even though we never know who actually created Harry Potter, it's strange, it just sort of wilts itself into existence, doesn't have a creator. It's strange. And especially because there's already a cooler version of Hogwarts in Elden Ring, the Academy of Raya Lucaria, because that school actually respects trans rights. But yeah, didn't care for the David Lynch Harry Potter movies, and then all the other Twilight movies followed that aesthetic. Don't care. But Catherine Hardwicke, I'm sure she's an alright person, you know. Yeah, so where were we? Yeah, Cabinet of Curiosities. Haven't seen it at the time of filming this, but I do really, really want to. And then also, let's see, what else can I recommend from my list? Well, Donnie Darko is a great Halloween movie because it takes place in the month of October, so it is a Halloween movie, and it's not really horror, and it's kind of a thriller, and it's a weird movie, but it's great, you know. It's probably kind of one of those, like, baby's first film school sort of thing, you know, or like that's the original pretentious movie people love to love. But, you know, it's still a great movie. So many great quotable lines, you know. What's the point of living if you don't have a dick? It's a mad world. Or sometimes I doubt your commitment to sparkle motion. Like, yeah. It's great. It's awesome. I need to rewatch it. Perfect Halloween movie. Then what else do we have here on the list? There was one that I was recommended by watching Dead Meat Kill Count videos, and he did one on the movie Society, which was a 1989 horror movie. And that's a movie where it's like, go into it knowing as little as possible. All you need to know is that at the end of the movie, there's a thing called shunting. What is shunting? I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to watch it and find out. But let's just put it this way. It is a very, very practical effects, bloody, gory nightmare when it comes to horror movies. So that's all really you should go into knowing about this movie, because that's how I did. And it was such a great experience, because it's like a great movie at making you feel paranoid. You know, like a Twilight Zone sort of thing, where you're like, okay, there's me, the viewer, and I'm watching it, and there's the protagonist, shall we say, the protagonist, and I'm with this person. I like them, they're cool, and they're the normal one. And then, well, there's the crazy person there, but then it's good that they're friends with this other person who's normal, but no, wait a minute, that person's in on it too. And then, oh my gosh, the one person we thought was cool was not, they're also in on it. Like, who is he able to trust? They're all in on it together. They're all watching me. They're all coming for me now. They're after me. So yeah, it's such an anxiety-inducing experience, and it has such a great, crazy, insane climax to the movie. That was basically like, hey, you know that Salvador Dali guy? What if we made his paintings come to life? Yeah. So yeah, great movie, and yes, I know, we live in one. Next recommendation, this one is actually more for me, so I remember to watch the movie, and that is Shutter Island, because I watched that movie when it came out, and I thought it was alright, but now it's one that I'm kind of looking back at, and I'm like, you know, I really need to go back and watch that movie again, because it's Martin Scorsese, and of course he's also the GOAT of cinema, and he hopefully has a new movie coming out next year, and I should go back and watch all of his classic movies so I can make a video on them at some point. That'll take me a while. Most of his movies are 3 hours long. Very hard to get through all of those. But yeah, Scorsese's great, Leo's great, Shutter Island's a great movie, and I really need to go back and watch it. It's one of those ones that always keeps you on your toes, always keeps you guessing. You don't know what's gonna happen there. There's this other movie I watched that's not really a horror. It's kind of a erotic drama with some thriller elements to it and a couple spooky moments, but I wouldn't call it a horror movie per se, but I want to recommend it. And it's the movie Thelma. And this is a Norwegian film. And it's kind of like, hey, what if Carrie was also not only undergoing, like, you know, the whole growing up differences between her and her parents and had the psychic powers, but what if she was also coming to terms with her own sexuality, i.e. that she's a lesbian? And yeah, that's the movie Thelma, and it's a very great movie. That was recommended by Hideo Kojima because in Death Stranding there's like the little Easter eggs where he like talks about movies that inspired him or music. And funny enough, Deep Red is also in there for the soundtrack, because that movie was actually released as Suspiria 2 in Japan, even though it has nothing to do with Suspiria. And so he referenced this movie Thelma, and the artwork for it was like a H.R. Geiger looking nightmare, but also a Medusa sort of thing. And so I had to watch the movie because of that. And yeah, it's a pretty good one. Again, I want to manage expectations, though. It's not a horror movie per se. It's more of a thriller with some dark elements. More so a romantic drama with a dark tone to it. But it's a good one. Just be warned, though, it's not one for you if you have epilepsy. There's literally a scene where a person's undergoing the whole, the scans with the lights, to induce seizure activities, EMT scan thing. I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about. That they do that in the movies, so you know, almost half as epileptic inducing as a Gaspar Noé film. Yeah, that's a good one. The movie that I talked about, it was on my top 10 for last year, was Malignant. And that's a horror movie from James Wan, who did like Saw and the Conjuring movies. And this movie starts out looking like it's just going to be one of those generic type of haunted house horror movies. But that's the trick, is it becomes so much more. And it becomes so over the top and crazy that it has to be like comical, but it plays it all with a straight face. And there's a big scene at a police station that's just like the most hilariously insane thing I've ever seen in a horror movie. Like, see, I chuckle about that, but then I try to describe it to people, and they're like, ew, that movie sounds gross, I don't want to watch it, you know? If you were like looking for like a fresh take on a horror movie, but something that also kind of had a decent amount of self-awareness to it, Malignant's the movie for you. I can't help but laugh about it. And I don't want to waste too much more of your time, so let's end it off with a couple other obvious ones, shall we? I have a Shining poster over there that's in the background of like all my videos, so go watch The Shining if you haven't. It's a classic. And make sure you watch the sequel, Doctor Sleep, because that one was also very good, very underrated. Like Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat, my queen, amazing. And while you're at it, watch Black Swan. Alright, Black Swan's a great movie from Darren Aronofsky, an amazing, crazy thriller. You know, that movie was like, I was hyped for it, and then it lived up to my expectations and still blew my mind. I love it so much. And Darren Aronofsky's got a new movie coming out, but this one looks like he's going for more, you know, tug out your heartstrings movies. The Whale, with the glorious comeback of Brendan Fraser. We're excited to see him again. He's also awesome. We all love him. So great to see him recovering from the hardships he has faced in his life. But yeah, that's Aronofsky's moods, is tug out your heartstrings with stuff like The Wrestler and The Fountain, or mess your brain up for days with stuff like Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream and Mother. So yeah, great movies. Again, if I was to recommend every horror movie, thriller that I like, I'd be here forever. So that's just the ones that have been on my mind lately, shall we say. So hopefully there's something good for you, and hopefully you guys have some nice treats in the comments for me, right? And yeah, have yourselves a happy Halloween, a blessed Samhain, not Samhain, and yeah, we'll see where we go from here. Anyway, hope you all enjoy that.